December 2nd, 1805. The sun rises over the frozen fields near Austerlitz, a small town in what is now the Czech Republic. This isn't just any sunrise. It's the sun of Austerlitz, a day that will forever be etched in history as the scene of Napoleon Bonaparte's greatest victory. How did a single battle redefine the map of Europe and cement the legend of an emperor? Let's dive into the story of the Battle of the Three Emperors. To understand Austerlitz, we have to rewind a bit. By 1805, Napoleon was emperor of the French, and his ambition was reshaping Europe. This didn't sit well with the other major powers. Britain, the master of the seas, was a constant thorn in his side. On the continent, the Austrian and Russian empires were deeply worried about France's growing influence. So they formed the Third Coalition, a grand alliance with one primary goal: to stop Napoleon. The coalition's plan was simple on paper: combine their massive armies and crush the French. The Austrians, led by General Mack, marched into Bavaria, expecting to link up with the powerful Russian army under General Kutuzov. They thought they had time. They were wrong. Napoleon, a master of speed and surprise, heard about the coalition's movements. His army, the Grande Armée, was camped on the coast of the English Channel, supposedly preparing to invade Britain. In a move that stunned his enemies, Napoleon wheeled his entire army around and marched them over 500 miles eastward in a breathtakingly short time. This was the famous Ulm campaign. Before the Russians could even arrive to help, Napoleon had completely surrounded General Mack's Austrian army at Ulm. On October 20th, Mack surrendered his entire force of nearly 30,000 men without a major fight. It was a strategic masterpiece, a devastating blow to the coalition before the main event had even begun. With one Austrian army gone, Napoleon marched on and captured Vienna, the Austrian capital, without a fight. But the war was far from over. The remaining Austrian forces had linked up with the massive Russian army. Tsar Alexander I of Russia was now personally on the scene, alongside Holy Roman Emperor Francis II of Austria. They had a combined force of around 85,000 men and were confident. Their numbers were superior to Napoleon's, who had about 73,000 troops. Napoleon found himself in a tricky position. His army was deep in enemy territory, his supply lines were stretched thin, and a powerful enemy stood before him. Winter was setting in. He needed a decisive victory, and he needed it now. So he decided to lay a trap, and the bait? Himself. Napoleon carefully chose his battlefield: the rolling terrain around the Pratzen Heights, a dominant plateau near the village of Austerlitz. Then, he did something completely out of character. He appeared weak. He sent messengers to the Allied emperors, pleading for an armistice. He pulled his troops back from the tactically important Pratzen Heights, making it look like he was retreating and preparing to defend his flank. His soldiers looked tired and disorganized. The Allied command staff, particularly the younger, more aggressive Russian officers surrounding Tsar Alexander, fell for it hook, line, and sinker. They saw a cornered, weakened Napoleon. The veteran Russian commander, General Kutuzov, was cautious. He advised against a direct attack, urging a retreat to regroup and draw the French even further from their supplies. But the Tsar, eager for glory, overruled him. The Allied plan was born. They would launch a massive attack on Napoleon's seemingly weak right flank to cut him off from his line of retreat to Vienna. To do this, they would have to move a huge portion of their army off the Pratzen Heights. This was exactly what Napoleon had been waiting for. On the night of December 1st, the eve of the battle, he rode among his troops. It was the anniversary of his coronation as emperor. His soldiers, sensing a great battle was coming, lit torches and cheered, "Vive l'Empereur!" The entire Allied camp could see the French lines ablaze with light, mistaking it for the French burning their camp before a full-scale retreat. The trap was set. As dawn broke on December 2nd, a thick fog covered the low-lying valleys, concealing the French army. But the peaks of the Pratzen Heights were clear, bathed in the morning sun. The Allies began their grand maneuver, pouring tens of thousands of troops down from the heights to assault the French right flank at the villages of Telnitz and Sokolnitz. This part of the French line was held by just one division under Marshal Davout. Davout's men had just completed an incredible forced march of 70 miles in 2 days to get there. Their job was to bend, but not break. They had to hold on for dear life, drawing more and more Allied troops into the fight in the south. And they did. The fighting in the south was brutal and chaotic. The villages changed hands multiple times. Davout's men fought with desperate courage, buying the precious time Napoleon needed. Meanwhile, Napoleon himself stood on a hill, watching and waiting. He saw the Allied columns leaving the Pratzen Heights, just as he had predicted. The Allied center was now dangerously thin. He turned to his marshals and famously asked, "How long will it take you to get to the top of the Pratzen Heights?" Marshal Soult replied, "Less than 20 minutes, sire." Napoleon gave the order. One sharp blow, and the war is over. At around 9 a.m., as the sun burned away the fog, 2 divisions of Marshal Soult's the 4th Corps surged out of the mist and began their assault on the now weakened Pratzen Heights. The Allied commanders were in complete shock. They thought the main French army was in retreat or defending the flank. They had no idea that Napoleon's main strike force was hidden right in front of them. The battle for the Heights was the decisive moment of Austerlitz. The French columns charged uphill, shouting "Vive l'Empereur!" They crashed into the surprised and outnumbered Allied units left to defend the center. The fighting was fierce, but the French momentum was unstoppable. By midday, the French flag was flying from the top of the Pratzen Heights. Napoleon had seized the center of the battlefield, effectively cutting the Allied army in two. With the center captured, Napoleon could now deal with the 2 wings of the Allied army separately. He swung his forces south to encircle the huge Allied left wing, the very force that had been trying to encircle him. Caught between Davout's stubborn defense in front and Soult's attack from their rear, the Allied left wing collapsed. Panic set in. Thousands of Russian and Austrian soldiers tried to escape across the frozen ponds and lakes nearby. Napoleon ordered his artillery to fire on the ice. The cannonballs shattered the surface, and thousands of men, horses, and cannons plunged into the freezing water. It was a horrific and decisive end to the fighting on that part of the field. To the north, the Russian Imperial Guard, the elite of the elite, launched a desperate counterattack to try and retake the Pratzen Heights. This led to some of the most intense cavalry clashes of the Napoleonic Wars, as the French Imperial Guard cavalry met them head-on. For a moment, the French line wavered, but Napoleon personally committed his own guard cavalry, the famous Horse Grenadiers and Mamelukes, to the fight. They shattered the Russian Guard's charge, securing the victory. By late afternoon, the Allied army was no longer an army. It was a routed mob, fleeing in every direction. The Battle of Austerlitz was over. The French had suffered around 9,000 casualties. The Allies, however, had suffered a catastrophic 36,000 casualties, killed, wounded, or captured. It was a stunningly one-sided victory. In the aftermath, Emperor Francis of Austria immediately asked for a truce. Tsar Alexander and his shattered army retreated back to Russia. 2 days later, Napoleon met with Francis II in a famous meeting by a windmill. The Third Coalition was dead. The subsequent treaty, the Peace of Pressburg, was harsh. Austria lost significant territory, including Venice and Tyrol, and had to pay a massive indemnity to France. The Holy Roman Empire, which had existed for over 1,000 years, was dissolved the following year. Napoleon was now the undisputed master of Central Europe. Austerlitz is often called Napoleon's masterpiece for good reason. It was a perfect demonstration of his military genius. The brilliant deception, the exploitation of enemy mistakes, the perfect timing of the central thrust, and the complete destruction of his enemy's army. It had everything. It wasn't just a battle. It was a work of art, painted on a canvas of rolling hills with soldiers and cannon smoke. It solidified his legend, and for the next decade, the fear of another Austerlitz would haunt the minds of every general who dared to face him. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most decisive battles, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the past. Let me know in the comments which battle you'd like to see covered next. Until then, stay curious.